In a world drowning in self-help gurus and financial advice, have you ever wondered why, despite all this knowledge, the rich only get richer while you remain stuck? The problem isn't your lack of discipline, intelligence, or effort. The truth is, you are trapped in an illusion carefully crafted by the wealthy themselves. Today, we tear away their mask, and I, Niccolò Machiavelli, shall reveal the deceptions you were never meant to see. You must understand a truth that governs all power. Men in high places never reveal themselves as they truly are. A prince, a ruler, a billionaire. These figures are skilled in one art above all others, the art of illusion. They know that what the masses crave is not reality, but a story that feels real. They know that to control men, it is not necessary to show them truth, but to offer them a carefully constructed mask of truth. This, my listener, is the first great deception of the wealthy, the illusion of transparency. Consider what you see when a billionaire speaks on a stage, or when he writes a book that promises to teach you how to succeed. The words sound honest, the tone is convincing, and the advice appears practical. Yet do you not find it curious that no matter how many people read their words, few ever rise to their level? If their methods were so simple, would not the world be filled with countless billionaires? Here lies the trick. They reveal only fragments of their path, and those fragments are shaped to make you believe you too can achieve what they did, when in truth the game was always tilted in their favor. The rich man cannot afford to be seen as a manipulator, for then he would lose his influence. Instead, he must appear as a man of the people, one who rose by wit and effort alone. He carefully selects the parts of his story that inspire admiration. His humble beginnings, his struggles, his long nights of work. What he does not reveal are the hidden hands that guided him, the doors that were opened in silence, the advantages concealed behind a curtain. And so, the illusion of transparency is born. He appears open, yet the most important truths remain hidden. Men are simple creatures. They believe what they see and what they hear, rarely questioning what is left unspoken. A billionaire steps onto a stage and tells you his journey, and you nod, you admire, you even feel motivated. But you forget that this performance is not for your benefit, it is for his. For every public appearance, every interview, every book is crafted with the precision of a painter adding strokes to a portrait. It is not reality you are witnessing, but an image designed to persuade, to inspire obedience, and to keep you from ever suspecting the true engines of his power. Think of a king in ancient times. He sits upon his throne, his robe glittering with jewels, his crown shining in the torchlight. The peasants who gather to see him do not know of the palace intrigue, the backroom alliances, the bribes, the betrayals. They only see what the king allows them to see: majesty, glory, strength. The billionaire of today is no different. He dresses his life with symbolism. His luxury cars, his speeches about hard work, his staged acts of kindness. These things are not reality. They are theater, carefully scripted to reinforce the illusion that he is no different from you, that you too can ascend to his throne if you only follow his steps. But understand this: men who hold true power never give away the key to it. Why would they? If you knew the full truth, you would no longer admire them. You would resent them. You would see that the ladder you are climbing is missing rungs, that the road you walk is designed to keep you chasing shadows. And so they hand you a half-truth, a story polished and repeated until it shines brighter than the reality it hides. They give you the illusion of transparency because it is the most effective way to conceal the very things that make them powerful. Observe how they reveal their failures to you. Have you noticed how every story of failure ends in triumph? How every setback becomes a lesson, every mistake a blessing in disguise? It seems authentic, does it not? Yet this too is crafted. For a man who reveals only failures that serve to glorify his eventual success is not confessing weakness, he is reinforcing strength. He tells you about the time he lost money, but not about the investor who secretly bailed him out. He tells you of the company that failed, but not of the connections that opened the next opportunity. You hear the confession and believe you are seeing the man in full, but in truth you are only seeing the version of himself he wishes you to see. The greatest part of deception is not in the lies told, but in the truths concealed. Transparency, when genuine, is dangerous for men of power, but a carefully curated transparency, a mask painted with fragments of honesty, this is the strongest weapon a billionaire has. For nothing blinds a man more than the belief that he is finally seeing the truth, when in fact he is only looking at another layer of illusion. And so, you listen. You learn. You try to imitate what you think is their formula for wealth, yet you remain trapped. Not because you are incapable, not because you lack discipline, but because you have been studying a mask instead of the face behind it. The billionaires understand this game well. Give the people a glimpse, but never the whole vision. Show them a map, but remove the roads that actually lead to the treasure. This is the illusion of transparency, and it is why you remain a spectator to their wealth rather than a rival to it. Every prince knows that virtue is a weapon, not a duty. And in the world of the wealthy, this truth has been perfected into an art. The billionaire does not merely accumulate wealth, he constructs a mask, a public image of moral greatness to shield his ambition and to bind the hearts of men to his cause. He understands that while money may buy comfort, it is virtue, or at least the appearance of it, that buys loyalty, silence, and admiration. This is why every act of generosity you see from the rich is not charity, but strategy. It is not love of humanity, but a performance for humanity. When a billionaire donates a fortune to build hospitals, schools, or foundations, the people applaud. The crowd calls him a savior, a man of compassion. But look closer, and you will see that every coin spent in the name of philanthropy returns to him multiplied in power. That hospital bears his name, ensuring that his legacy outlives his failures. That school is not simply a gift, but a factory of influence, shaping the minds of future generations according to his design. And that foundation, which appears to be a noble act of service, is often a fortress of control, shielding wealth from taxation and turning public goodwill into a resource as valuable as gold. Do not be deceived by the mask, for the billionaire knows what I, Niccolò Machiavelli, have always taught: it is more useful to appear good than to be good. Men do not peer into your soul, they only see your actions, and even then, only as much as you allow them to see. Thus the rich dress their greed in robes of virtue, turning their vices into symbols of greatness. They give just enough to appear selfless, yet never so much that it endangers their own dominance. Their generosity is calculated, a tool to keep the crowd docile, grateful, and blind to the machinery of exploitation that fuels their empire. Consider also the timing of their moral displays. A scandal arises, whispers of corruption spread, the people begin to suspect foul play. What does the billionaire do? He unveils a grand act of charity, a sudden outpouring of virtue. The newspapers shift their focus, the people forgive, and the scandal dissolves into smoke. This is not morality, it is manipulation. It is the careful balancing of reputation, the art of ensuring that admiration outweighs suspicion. Men desire to believe in the goodness of the powerful because it soothes their envy. It allows them to imagine that those who have risen above them are not tyrants, but guardians. And the rich exploit this desire with exquisite skill. They show you their kindness, their donations, their speeches about justice and equality, and you believe you are seeing the heart of the man. In truth, you are only seeing the mask he wears when the world is watching. Even their failures in morality are often turned into tools of deception. A billionaire is caught avoiding taxes, manipulating markets, or silencing critics. What follows? A public apology, tears in the eyes, promises of reform. Suddenly, the same man who deceived you appears humble, human, repentant. And the people forgive, for men are quick to pardon those who seem to acknowledge their sins. Yet understand, this confession is not weakness, but strategy. For to admit a small fault openly is to distract from the larger crimes that remain hidden. The mask of morality is not only worn in acts of philanthropy, but also in the language the rich use. Listen to how they speak of making the world a better place, of giving back, of creating opportunity. These words are honey to the ears of the masses, yet they conceal a darker truth. The billionaire does not seek to better the world for you, but to secure it for himself. Every opportunity he creates is a cage disguised as freedom. Every act of giving is a chain disguised as a gift. He builds a world that benefits him most of all, and then convinces you that it is for your benefit. And what of their wars against vice? Have you not seen the wealthy speak against corruption, pollution, or inequality, while their own empires are built upon these very sins? They condemn what they secretly practice, for in doing so they appear righteous while diverting suspicion away from themselves. A man who shouts loudly against evil is rarely free from it. More often, he shouts to keep your eyes away from his own hands. The greatest trick of the mask of morality is this: it not only convinces the people, it convinces the wearer. After years of playing the role, the billionaire begins to believe his own performance. He convinces himself that his greed is ambition, that his control is leadership, that his exploitation is service. This is the final stage of deception, where the mask fuses to the face, and the man himself forgets where the lie ends and where the truth begins. Power does not only lie in what you possess, but in what you deny others. A ruler maintains control not merely through armies or laws, but through the careful rationing of what men desire most. This is the essence of scarcity, the art of withholding, of limiting, of controlling access so that all men remain dependent on you. And the billionaire has mastered this ancient principle better than any prince of Florence ever could. For while they may speak of abundance and opportunity, understand that their empires are built not on generosity, but on restriction. They decide what flows freely and what trickles slowly, and in this way, they bind the hands of millions without ever lifting a sword. The wealthy know that men are governed by need: food, shelter, medicine, knowledge. Every one of these can be made abundant, yet it rarely is. Why? Because abundance weakens control. If bread is cheap and plentiful, the baker has no power over the hungry. If knowledge flows without restraint, no single hand can dictate how the people think. But when resources are limited, when opportunities are scarce, when access is granted only by the few who hoard it, then men will obey. They will work harder, submit willingly, even betray their own interests, all for the hope of receiving what has been deliberately withheld. Observe the markets. Oil, steel, diamonds, medicine. Do you believe their price is always a natural reflection of supply and demand? Or is it often the result of deliberate scarcity, created by those who profit from holding back? A mine filled with diamonds is worthless to the one who floods the market, but priceless to the one who controls their release. And so too with medicine, the cure exists, yet its price remains unreachable, not because of rarity in nature, but because of artificial scarcity created in boardrooms. The illusion of shortage becomes more profitable than actual abundance, and the rich exploit this illusion to make you believe that their control is necessary. Scarcity does not only concern goods, it applies equally to opportunity. Think of education, the supposed ladder to success. They speak of it as if it were open to all, yet the finest schools are locked behind walls of wealth, ensuring that only a chosen few inherit the connections that matter. For while knowledge itself can be read in a book, the power of education lies in networks, alliances, and entry into circles closed to most men. The billionaire ensures that true opportunity is scarce, while selling to the masses the illusion that hard work alone will lift them up. Time, too, is manipulated as a form of scarcity. Have you not noticed how the lives of ordinary men are consumed by endless labor, by the clock that dictates their existence? The worker has no time to think, no time to rebel, no time to breathe. Meanwhile, the rich man's time is infinite, for he has bought himself free from labor. He invests, he delegates, he commands, and in doing so, he owns not only his own hours, but indirectly the hours of millions who toil beneath him. Scarcity of time is perhaps the greatest trick of all, for while you chase minutes and seconds, the rich manipulate centuries. Consider how the billionaire manages trends. They create scarcity in desire itself. A new product emerges, not because it is necessary, but because it has been made scarce, exclusive, limited in supply. You are told that only a select few will own it, and immediately men scramble, compete, and fight to be among the chosen. This is not commerce, it is psychology. For when something appears scarce, its value multiplies in the eyes of the desperate. And desperation is the richest soil from which obedience grows. The game of scarcity also breeds dependency. The billionaire ensures you cannot live without him. He controls your water, your electricity, your medicine, your employment. You may despise him, but you still pay him. You may curse his greed, yet you cannot escape his grip. Like a prince who keeps his subjects just poor enough to need him, but not poor enough to revolt, the rich design a system where you survive only by their permission. You are free in name, but in practice, you are bound. Even ideas are rationed under this game. Truth itself is made scarce, hidden under waves of propaganda, half-truths and distractions. A single fact can change the minds of thousands, yet that fact rarely reaches them unaltered. Instead, the wealthy determine what knowledge is accessible, what narratives are amplified, what voices are silenced. Information could be as abundant as the air, yet in practice it is treated as a precious stone, mined, refined, and sold at a price. He who controls the scarcity of truth controls the obedience of entire nations. Scarcity, then, is not simply an economic tool. It is a weapon of governance. The billionaire knows that a starving man will not ask for freedom, only bread. A tired worker will not demand justice, only rest. A desperate people will not rise against their ruler, but will instead beg him for crumbs, thanking him for the very chains that bind them. This is why the rich do not truly seek abundance in the world, for abundance would dissolve their power and equality would end their rule. The wisest rulers know that it is not enough to defeat one's enemies. It is far more effective to own them. And the wealthy of this age have perfected this lesson into a science. They do not fear opposition because they have learned to manufacture it, to fund it, to control it from within. What appears to you as a great battle of ideas, as a clash of powers, is often nothing more than theater staged by the same hidden hand. This is the art of controlled oppositions, to give the people the illusion of choice, while ensuring that every path, every voice, and every outcome serves the master who hides in the shadows. Look closely at politics, and you will see this principle at work. Two parties rage against one another, their followers clash in endless debate, the nation divides itself into camps. Each side believes they are fighting for truth, for justice, for their vision of the future. Yet behind the curtains, the money flows into both sides. The billionaire ensures that whichever banner you salute, it is his coin that fuels the battle. He does not need to win the argument, for he has already purchased the victor. And thus, the people are distracted, their passions expended, while the wealthy remain untouched, profiting from every outcome. This is not limited to politics. Consider culture, business, even the movements that claim to resist power. For every rebellion, every uprising, every protest that rises against the elite, ask yourself who funds it, who organizes it, who benefits from it. Many times, you will find the fingerprints of the very same figures it claims to resist. The wealthy are not foolish enough to allow a true enemy to rise unchecked. Instead, they create enemies of their own design, controlled rivals who appear to fight them, but in reality serve to channel and exhaust the anger of the masses. Think of it like a chessboard. The pawns move, the rooks clash, the knights leap dramatically into battle. To the casual observer, it appears a war of equals. But the billionaire is not a piece on the board. He is the hand that moves both black and white. And so, while men lose themselves in the thrill of the match, the outcome is never truly in doubt. The master controls both sides, ensuring that whatever happens, his throne remains unshaken. Even in commerce, this principle thrives. You believe you are choosing between rivals, between competing brands, competing corporations, competing products. Yet often these so-called rivals are owned by the same parent company, the same board of investors, the same hidden powers. Your loyalty, your money, your choices, all flow back into the same treasury. You believe yourself free because you choose between one logo and another, but in truth, you are caught in a cage where every door leads to the same master. The genius of controlled opposition lies in its subtlety. The people must never suspect that their resistance has been orchestrated for them. They must believe they are free, that their protests are authentic, that their votes are decisive. This illusion is essential, for men who know they are enslaved may revolt, but men who believe they are free will defend their chains. Thus, the wealthy carefully cultivate movements that appear bold, radical, even dangerous, yet never threaten the root of their power. These movements shout, they march, they inspire, but always within boundaries set by their unseen rulers. And when a true opposition does arise, one that genuinely threatens their dominion, what do the rich do? They infiltrate it, they corrupt it, they buy its leaders with promises of wealth or influence. If persuasion fails, they sow division within it, pitting its members against each other until it collapses from within. And if all else fails, they unleash their controlled opposition to drown it out, to absorb its energy, to convince the people that the false rebellion is the true one. In this way, real threats are neutralized, swallowed whole by imitations that serve the interests of power. Controlled opposition also feeds upon human vanity. Men wish to believe they are rebels, that they are fighting against the mighty, that they stand for something greater. The wealthy exploit this desire, providing them with symbols, slogans, and causes that feel authentic but are safely contained. They allow the people to rage, to shout, to feel powerful, while ensuring that all this energy circles back into their own systems. It is like giving a prisoner a larger cell and convincing him that he is now free. The brilliance of this deception lies in how it shapes belief. When opposition is controlled, the people no longer know who truly stands against their rulers. Every voice of dissent becomes suspect, every movement tainted, every leader compromised. Confusion spreads, and in confusion, obedience takes root. Men no longer trust their instincts, for they cannot tell truth from manipulation. They retreat, they surrender, they resign themselves to the belief that all resistance is futile, and in that surrender, the wealthy secure their power more firmly than any army could. Men do not follow truth, they follow appearances. It is not reality that governs the masses, but the image of reality, painted with enough brilliance to blind their reason. This is why the wise ruler, and the modern billionaire even more so, invests not in truth but in spectacle. He understands that perception is more powerful than fact, and that men will willingly embrace a lie if it dazzles them more than a dull truth. The weapon of appearances is sharper than any sword, and the wealthy wield it with precision that leaves entire nations kneeling before illusions. Look upon how the rich present themselves. Their palaces of glass and steel tower over the cities not simply to house business, but to remind you of their supremacy. Their cars, their clothes, their homes. These are not necessities, but symbols, carefully chosen emblems that announce their greatness. For in the hearts of men, symbols weigh heavier than substance. A man who appears powerful is obeyed more readily than a man who is truly powerful but invisible. And so the billionaire ensures that you see his wealth, his influence, his grandeur. For this spectacle convinces you that resistance is hopeless and imitation is the only path forward. Consider the way they craft their public image. Their faces appear on magazines, their speeches circulate on glowing screens, their names are whispered with reverence. They are elevated into myths, transformed from mere men into legends of genius, vision, and destiny. Do you believe this myth is accidental? No. It is purchased, cultivated, refined. Publicists, media empires, scholars for hire, all play their part in constructing a halo around the rich, ensuring that whatever they do, they appear exceptional, almost divine. And the people, ever hungry for idols, bow before these fabrications as if they were sacred truth. Understand that appearances matter more than virtue. A billionaire need not be moral if he appears moral. He need not be wise if he appears wise. He need not be just if he appears just. Men are too busy with their own lives, too blind with their own desires, to investigate deeply. They see the surface and accept it as the whole. And so, the wealthy polish the surface, painting over cracks, burying flaws, until the mask becomes indistinguishable from the man. The illusion becomes reality, because men prefer the comfort of appearances to the discomfort of truth. Even failure is reshaped by this weapon. When the rich man loses, he ensures his loss is presented as a lesson, a stepping stone, a story of resilience. What would ruin an ordinary man becomes, in his hands, a tale of triumph that only strengthens his legend. For appearances do not need to match reality. They only need to be persuasive. And once the story is crafted, repeated, and glorified, men forget the failure itself and remember only the noble struggle. The weapon of appearances also extends beyond the individual into the very structures they build. A company may be corrupt within, exploiting workers, avoiding taxes, poisoning the land. Yet outwardly, it presents itself as a beacon of progress, a servant of humanity. Beautiful logos, inspirational slogans, glossy campaigns about saving the planet or empowering communities. These appearances mask the rot beneath. And the people, lulled by the surface, continue to consume, to obey, to admire, never questioning the hand that exploits them. Appearances manipulate not only admiration but also fear. A billionaire may not control every market, but if he appears to, then rivals hesitate to move against him. He may not be invincible, but if his image radiates invincibility, men will surrender before the battle begins. Appearances magnify power beyond its true measure, convincing both allies and enemies alike that resistance is futile. This is why rulers of old wore crowns and marched with armies dressed in splendid armor, because spectacle defeats enemies long before swords cross. The modern wealthy follow the same principle, only with subtler weapons, media spectacles, public events, grand gestures that make their influence appear endless. And what of generosity? Here too appearances triumph over substance. A donation of $1 million may be paraded before cameras, though it is but a fraction of the wealth hidden away. Yet the people see the act and proclaim him a saint. The appearance of virtue is worth far more than virtue itself, for it secures loyalty at little cost. And if a scandal threatens, appearances can be recalibrated. A smiling interview, a carefully crafted apology, a staged act of humility. The masses forgive because they see only what they are shown. This is why the weapon of appearances is the most indispensable tool of the rich. They do not seek to convince you of truth, they seek to convince you of image. They construct myths, legends, reputations, spectacles, all to ensure that what you see blinds you from what you should see. And once you accept the appearance, you no longer search for the reality. You no longer question the mask, for the mask is all you know. Gold may purchase kingdoms, but it is not gold that sustains them. The true empire of the wealthy is not built upon coins, nor upon lands, nor upon armies, but upon the minds of men. This is the greatest secret, the final deception that money is merely the surface, the visible crown, while the real power lies in shaping belief itself. The billionaire understands that a fortune can be stolen, taxed, or destroyed. But if he can command the thoughts of millions, if he can dictate what they dream, what they value, what they consider possible, then his dominion becomes eternal. For men may rise against wealth, but they rarely rise against the very ideas that guide their lives. Consider how belief is shaped. From childhood, you are told what success means, what greatness looks like, what path leads to dignity, and who defines these standards. It is not the common man struggling for bread. It is the wealthy, who project their image of success into your imagination. The mansion, the car, the empire of business. These become the symbols you are taught to worship, the goals you are told to chase. Yet, while you pursue these symbols, believing them to be your choice, you are unknowingly walking the path laid by another's design. The billionaire has planted the seed of desire in you long before you believed it was your own thought. This deception is subtle, yet more powerful than force. For force may bend men's bodies, but belief bends their souls. A tyrant who rules by the sword must forever fear rebellion, but a ruler who controls belief faces no such threat, for his subjects enslave themselves willingly. They call their obedience freedom, their servitude ambition, their chains opportunity, and thus the wealthy secure a kingdom without walls, a prison without locks, where men march happily into their own confinement. Observe how the billionaire uses culture as a weapon. Through stories, films, music, and advertisements, he floods the world with images that glorify his way of life. You see the smiling faces, the glamorous lifestyles, the promise that happiness awaits if only you play by the rules of the system. These images are not innocent, they are instruments of belief. They persuade you that wealth equals virtue, that status equals worth, that consumption equals fulfillment. And once you accept these lies, you no longer question the system that keeps you beneath it. The power of belief also shapes morality itself. Acts that once would have been condemned as greed, manipulation, or corruption are now celebrated as genius, innovation, or strategy. The same deed, dressed in different language, becomes either vice or virtue depending on how belief is managed. A billionaire can exploit labor, monopolize markets, silence critics. Yet if he frames these actions as progress, as leadership, as vision, the people will cheer instead of rebel. Morality, in the hands of the wealthy, becomes not a standard but a tool, flexible, malleable, adjusted to serve their dominion. Even time and history are rewritten by this deception. When the rich man dies, the story told of him is rarely the truth. Instead, it is a legend carefully crafted to inspire future generations. His flaws are softened, his crimes forgotten, his ruthlessness transformed into wisdom. Statues are raised, books are written, foundations are built in his name. And thus, even from the grave, he commands belief. He does not merely rule in life. He rules in memory, in myth, in the very narrative that men pass down through the ages. The final deception is not only in how the rich shape the world, but in how they convince you that you, too, are free to shape it. They hand you stories of self-made men, of rags to riches, of ordinary souls who climbed the mountain through effort alone. And though such stories may hold fragments of truth, they are exceptional precisely because they are rare. The wealthy parade these tales not to reveal reality, but to reinforce belief that if one man can rise, then so can you. And so you toil, you sacrifice, you dedicate your life to climbing a ladder that was built to keep you in place. The brilliance of this deception lies in how invisible it becomes. You do not feel controlled because you believe your desires are your own. You do not feel enslaved because you call it ambition. You do not see the strings because the puppet master has convinced you that you are the one moving them. And in this illusion, the billionaire secures a power greater than armies, greater than treasure, greater even than laws. The power to inhabit your mind, to write your values, to decide the very limits of your imagination. So what do all these lessons reveal? That money alone is never the real prize. The true treasure lies in perception, in control, in the quiet mastery of the human mind. Wealth is only the mask. It dazzles, blinds, and distracts. But behind that mask, the cunning few build something far greater, the ability to command loyalty without force, obedience without chains, and admiration without deserving it. Machiavelli warned us centuries ago the world is not shaped by the good-hearted, nor by the hardworking alone, but by those who understand how appearances create reality. The rich do not simply own possessions, they own narratives. They decide what you admire, what you fear, what you chase, and what you believe to be impossible. And so long as you measure yourself by their standards, you are not free. You are playing their game. But here is the hidden key. Once you see the deception, once you recognize that belief is the true battlefield, you are no longer a pawn. You begin to step into the realm of power, not because you have gold in your hand, but because you no longer let another man write the story of your life. The final lesson is not to despise wealth, nor to worship it, but to master the art that sustains it, the power to influence, to shape, to rule not by force, but by the silent empire of ideas.